So we just wanted to sort of put in this meeting to sort of talk about some of the issues that are facing students at the moment. I'm sure you're aware, like, as a Windsor candidate, a lot of our students will be living in like the Englefield area, which would now become a part of like the Windsor constituency.
That's correct.
So sort of just like on that topic, the first thing that we wanted to sort of discuss is like housing and accommodation for students. As I mentioned earlier, like a lot of our students move into like the Egham and the Englefield Green area after their first year of study.
Yes.
And they quickly sort of find that the housing market in this area, you know, it's very expensive. A lot of the houses are quite low quality. Landlords aren't really keeping things like in the conditions that they should be. So we wanted to know, like, that should you be elected, how will you be sort of fighting to secure better rights for students as tenants, ensuring better quality of housing for students, and sort of like holding landlords and estate agents to account. And yeah, I just wanted to hear about your thoughts on that.
Are you okay if I put my glasses on? Because one, they're prescription, but they will put a bit of darkness. But if it's a problem, I'll take them back off. But
No,
it's better that
right.
I can see you. See what you think. Is that it doesn't look good, does it? So no, I'll take them off. Don't worry. I'll be blind. But that's good. That's no problem. So yes, I think students suffer from the same problems that all constituents suffer from. You know, it's not just students. The controls over housing and accommodation in this area has not been overseen. As many things with Parliament, they've really not cared enough and let people and opportunists come in, and it's more of a money making machine. And you know, house prices have gone up significantly in the last few years because the political parties have fed that agenda to make people feel wealthier to vote for them. And this has to stop because we see the problems that this affects, just not in students but everyday life. You know, £700,000 is the average house price. The average income is £35,000 in this area. I'm not talking about other areas of the UK, and that doesn't equate. You've got average rentals £1,800 a month. So we need to attack this now, and we need to find solutions to this now. Now, I don't say I have all the solutions, but by putting a independent into Parliament, it creates that debate. This is a royal constituency, and the only way you're going to get people to talk about these things and take action is to change their views and make them feel that the people want change. So there's things that we can do. I think social housing, we need to open up empty properties. We need to look at other visionary ways and ideas where we can create new solutions to bring into the housing market. We need to put in some legislation straight away. And one of the things I'll be looking to do is the quality of accommodation. One of the things I've been doing in canvassing is knocking on students' doors in Englefield Green. So as much as I'm knocking on the established houses and families, I'm knocking on the students and talking to students. And I can see as I walk down the pathway, I'm tripping over rubbish and bits and pieces. They're treated terribly, and it's all about money. And my daughter is a GP, just qualified, and she's done 10 years in different types of accommodation, in Bristol mainly. And I see some of the accommodation is okay, but none of it's great. And the amount of money it costs and the amount of student loan and debt is being built up to feed the private machine is unfair on students. So we need to look at that, but we need to do that across the board with housing. But students need their own set of support and help right now. But if we continue to let these political parties continue the way they think and the way they are, this will never happen. It will not happen. It hasn't happened, and it won't happen. But I believe an independent is the only person who can really focus this and take this forward for students.
Thank you for that, David. I feel like it's really reassuring to sort of hear like you sort of understand, especially like from seeing like how your daughter experienced and sort of renting and you know, like, as you mentioned, this is an issue that affects not only students but also local residents as well. So it's really great to hear you're sort of having that commitment to sort of like that quality of housing and ensuring that everyone has like a fair like house to live in. Well,
we're going to, if I could just come in, we're going to be talking about mental health later. And this is all about mental health. It's about people feeling comfortable, being secure and safe, and just being able to aspire to whatever they want to achieve in life, and not feel that these effects. And housing is the first start. A safe, secure, warm home where you don't feel vulnerable. I'm going to lose this home next week because I can't afford it, or someone's going to sell it and they're going to sell it on. All these things, we need stability in our lives to aspire to create the lives that we want to make. So it all goes together. I think it's very, very important.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that was really, really insightful. So thank you for your comments on that. So we're sort of going to touch on, I feel like you mentioned this earlier, but sort of like maintenance loans, student fees, etc., things like that. So nationally, as I'm sure you're aware, we're in a cost of living crisis, and this is significantly impacting people, but particularly students. Students are really feeling this impact a lot greater, I feel like, especially because maintenance loans haven't been rising in line with inflation and haven't done so since I think 2020, 2021. And I think the government's own figures highlighted that the loan would need to be increasing by 15.5% to maintain the value of support in real terms. So I guess our question is, like, what are your thoughts around increasing maintenance loans in line with inflation? And I don't know if you've read the news lately, but there is a massive funding pressure on UK universities because of sort of a lack of investment into the higher education model. So I guess our question is, what are your thoughts around lowering or eliminating student fees and perhaps increasing maintenance loans in line with inflation? And do you have any comments on a solution to the funding model and pressures felt by UK universities?
Okay, well, let's take the maintenance loans first on the inflation. Yes, they have to be index linked to inflation. It's no good just paying people the same amount of money and seeing all the costs, living expenses we just discussed going up. Even the loaf of bread, we've seen all the costs going up, energy costs, everything going up. So this is the problem with the political parties to date. They're not living in the real world. They don't understand what's going on. And this is part of the problem. And what I bring to the table is it's about now. It's about what is happening right now and what can we do right now. So a lot of the policies, a lot of the things that I'm looking to do is to say, right, we've got a problem. Let's talk about the problem. Let's look at what we can do now in the medium term and the longer term. We have to take that view because no one's going to be elected on the 4th of July and solve everyone's problems. It's not going to happen. We have decades now of taxation, higher taxation. What everyone tells you, don't listen to them. The only option is higher taxation and costs, and the cost of living crisis is going to get worse and worse and worse. So the reason for that is because Parliament and the governments for decades have not concentrated on growth, and growth is our main way out of it. Now, there are ways we can stimulate growth, but everything's going to take a bit of time. I want to talk about how we can stimulate growth so we can deal with these issues faster. So first of all, your maintenance loans, yes, have to increase, and we have to have that conversation. And we have to find ways of making that happen. But it has to happen. You can't keep forcing students into poverty or not being able to carry out a fair education. One of the questions I think was to get rid of or lower student fees. I think that's something you can work towards. I don't think that's something you can get rid of today. We've got to face the facts. I think the student debt at the moment is 490 billion. In 2050, it's going to be closer to $1 trillion. It's off balance sheet at the moment in government costs, and the situation is if that went onto balance sheet, that would affect us very, very badly from a AAA credit point of view across the world. So we need to face the facts. We need to look at how we're going to repay this, but for the time being, we have to support people's living standards. That isn't a choice, and we have to support the education their needs to be able to aspire to get to the places in life they want to get to. So the answer is some of the things we can do now, some of the things we have to do over a longer period of time, and some of the things we should encourage. We have to look at students' fees, we have to look at universities, because people have to have an easier way to get into university, improve their education, and get to the higher paid jobs that they need to get to. So that's, I think, did we cover all your questions there, or
Yes,
just going through your list without my glasses on? So so basically the cost of living crisis is going to get worse. That's the short term, and we need people in Parliament who understand that, see it. If you can't see it, you can't fix it. The existing political parties cannot see it, they do not care about it, and they will not fix it. So my view is if you vote for an independent, you get someone up in there who will fix it and will be calling out these questions on a day-to-day basis.
Thank you for that, Daniel. That was really, really helpful. And I think it's really, really reassuring to hear you understand maintenance loans not going up in line with inflation is really, really detrimental to the student experience, but also like the student well-being, living in, like as we mentioned earlier, like lower quality housing because you can't afford anything better, not being able to afford a food shop, things like that. They're really detrimental to student mental health and in turn how they succeed within higher education. So it's really great that you sort of recognise that. I'm going to
I think
pass
one thing
over.
I'll touch on before we move on is what we used to have years ago is we used to have the wage index linked to the house price index. And it's one of the things, once it restabilises and comes back together at an affordable amount, we need to link that together so this never happens again. We cannot have governments or parliament affecting people's lives in the way they have and creating this divide and forcing wages down and increasing house prices to win votes. It must never happen again. So I'll be looking in the future, if I'm elected, to link wage index to house price index. And that way it moves up together. And it doesn't have this divide that you're now seeing and all the students are suffering from, as are day-to-day constituents.
Thank you so much for that, David.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to pass on over to Alistair, who'll be asking the next few questions.
Hi, David. Sorry,
Hi,
I've been
Alistair.
CC'd into the emails, but I don't think we've actually properly. Yeah, I'm Alistair. I'm like Sharon here, but I do student groups, societies, and sport, and a student trustee at the Students' Union. So the next question I'm going to take over is the LGBT community. So
Yes.
in recent years, our students have consistently raised that it feels like the United Kingdom is becoming an increasingly hostile environment for queer students, with current government ministers and even the Prime Minister making comments and policies that are harmful for the LGBT community.
Yes.
So the question sort of is, if you're elected in Windsor, how will you stand up for the LGBT community, secure better support for trans students at university, and make Windsor and the country safer for the whole LGBT community?
I think it's about discrimination. It's about removing discrimination at any level of society. And I think it's about people feeling secure, safe, and being able to live their lives as they want to live it. We have things in this land called laws, okay? And if we live our lives within the right side of the law, we should be able to live our lives however we want. And that's the way life should be. So probably in my DNA, I disagree with discrimination of any kind. I don't like tribalism and I don't like division. So that's in my DNA. So I think having an independent up there who has that approach to life, where we don't like discrimination, and I think that's it. I could talk about a situation in my life. I don't like talking about it. If everyone wants a further conversation, we have family and friends who have transitioned and gone through this situation, and we're very supportive of the whole community. So I think it's about teaching people, educating people, and protecting people where they can go and aspire to be whatever you want to be, but it just has to be the right side of the law as far as I'm concerned. And then basically it's open to everyone. Just have fun, enjoy yourselves, be consensual, be respectful, and let's all live together in harmony. So that's where I'm coming from in my core. How that equates in Parliament, I can only tell you what I am, and I don't change my opinion for anybody. So that will be my view of life.
That's really useful and good to hear. Yeah. Thank you. Sharon, did you have anything to add? You're muted.
I do this every time, like at least once a meeting. I mute myself and I don't unmute myself and I speak. Sorry. No, I'm just gonna like reiterate what Ansa said. It's really reassuring. Like I think just having conversations with a lot of our students at the moment is they feel quite unsafe, especially like within like the comments made by the Prime Minister, by his party, and things like that. Students feel unsafe, and for us a massive thing is about, as you mentioned, like everyone needs to feel safe and they need to feel like they belong within the community, and it's about making sure that we ensure that we allow those people to flourish in what they're doing. So yeah, I think we're really happy to hear like you sort of support that.
I'm about bringing everyone together. We're in this journey together, whether it be banks, corporations, students, constituents, MPs, whoever it is in life. We've got huge things to face and we need to do this together, and together we need to support one another. And that's where I come from in every policy and everything I do. People moan at me, they say, "Oh, David, you want to bring so many people around the table." I said, well, no, I think we need to be more inclusive of views. I think we need to be more inclusive of people's opinions, and we had to have these debates. I don't think it's about shutting people down or making people feel uncomfortable they can't raise issues. We should be able to talk about anything and discuss it and debate it. So that's in my DNA. No one will change that. And no matter what the Prime Minister of the time does or the government does at the time, I'm an independent. No one tells me what to do but my constituents and the people I care and work for and serve. That's it.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Moving on, I mean, you touched on it briefly, but it's the next question is around support and mental well-being at university. So just to, before the questions, do some stats. So mental health issues are highly prevalent among students, and mental health conditions reported by students are 7 times higher than they were 10 years ago. There's a 2022 survey by a company called Student Minds, which highlighted 57% of respondents self-reported a mental health issue, and 27%, just over a quarter, stated they had a diagnosed mental health condition. And nationally, an average of 1/3 of university students actually drop out because of mental health issues. So in light of these issues in this crisis, the questions are, do you think enough has been done in mental health and wellbeing services and education? Do you think that the government should be doing more to support or enable universities to better support their students' well-being? And is there anything you can promise to the Royal Holloway students if you were to be elected for Windsor?
Okay, so there's a couple of things here. Mental health is about setting an environment where people feel they can change their environment. The situation is that we've robbed everyone of their hopes and aspirations. So there's all different reasons for mental health. It could be the accommodation we've discussed. It could be family issues. It could be lots of different issues. The thing is, with an independent, one of the things that I've done since becoming, I was a businessman before for 40 years. I came into politics because I found myself politically homeless. What I've done since I came into work within my local community, and I want to bring that to the whole constituents, is I am always available. I stand side by side by everybody who is a constituent, and even if they're not our constituents, I helped someone the other day in another constituency. I help independents across the country to try and find their way to make the changes we need, because we need people to stand side by side and listen to the problems that people have. We need to face this head on, that mental health is an issue. But the reason why mental health is happening for some is because they look at this mountain they have to climb, and they look at it and say, my God, how am I going to overcome all these things? We need to strip that away and allow people to have the ability to see answers and feel they're not alone. And we will be side by side. So with an independent, my job is to get amongst my constituents, stand side by side with them on this journey, because it is going to be a really, really tough journey for everyone for the next 10, 20 years. And I'm not kidding anyone, I understand and I see the tip of the iceberg that we're facing. So mental health is going to be the key issue. And we have to impact that now by giving people representation where they feel they can come and talk about these things, they can discuss these things, and we will create a plan together. I can't solve some things overnight, but we'll create a plan together, and they will understand that change is coming. And sometimes just knowing that things are going to change is enough to make people feel a bit more comfortable. They're going to get a safe and secure roof over their head. They're going to live somewhere warm. They're going to have food on the table. We're going to get rid of children's poverty. We're going to get rid of this poverty that we have and homelessness in this country. But we've got to have people in Parliament who see it, understand it, and care about it. And at the moment, they're not accountable to anybody. So having an independent go up there, I believe I can help mental health, because I can change the culture where students and people suffering can feel there is someone who's going to listen to them, and there is somewhere to go, and there is someone who's going to care about them. And I think fundamentally, if we build the foundations to give people hopes and aspirations and answers to their problems, then we can help people, and the majority of people. Some of the people will need additional help and support, but fundamentally it's about changing their environment that they're looking into. And they're looking at coming out of university with debt. They're coming out of, what's the housing market like? How am I going to aspire to do this? How am I going to do this? These are all pressures that eventually it's a straw that breaks the camel's back. So I want to remove that pressure as soon as possible and create that freedom, so they can feel that unburdening of taking that pressure off of them, and then they can come and journey with us in trying to make their lives better. So I hope that answers the question in building the foundations of a better life for everybody. But I think that's where the core values of helping people will come from. And then hopefully, I hope that the things we put in place, if I'm elected, will help support people where they don't feel the need to feel that pressure and that blackness.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really good in tackling this sort of issues, and a lot of what you said as well is around that pressure around university. We've already talked about it with housing fees and everything. It sounds like you not only supporting them directly, but also the change you'd made to alleviating of the other pressures would help then mental health go further and relieve those pressures.
Alistair, if
Um,
we continue the way we are, these pressures are not going away. They're going to get a lot worse. So my role is to try and change that culture as quickly as possible, and I believe the constituency of Royal Windsor is the place to do it, because people will take notice if you elect an independent into Parliament this term. Whereas if we elect any political party, it will make no difference to anyone. It'll just be the same old, same old. If this was done in Halifax or Hartlepool, and no disrespect to those areas, it wouldn't have the same impact as Windsor. Windsor will shake up and change politics overnight if you put an independent up there who is open to these changes. If we continue with the same way as what we've had, and that's party politics, the situation is that nothing will change. And I fear for people, and I fear for my children and my grandchildren if things don't change.
That's really useful. Thank you. A final question from me. I think it will be a good one because of your role as an independent and working with the residents in the area, is around the local community. So students are an integral part of the socio-economic growth of Edgham and the Englefield Green area, and much of the economic surplus coming from contributions from students throughout the year. But despite this, students still struggle within the local community. So our students would like to see a commitment to their safety through the implementation of night buses in Edgham and Englefield, and an investment into street lighting in the area. When it comes to council tax, supporting the campaign to remove council tax from students when remaining in contracts for a short time past their study end date, and also removing or extending council tax exemption to students who are also studying part-time. And then finally, is there anything around the local community that you can pledge your support around making it better for students at Royal Holloway?
I think that most of the things you talk about there are local issues from a local authority point of view, but that's key, because where I come from is about working with the local councillors, the local councils. So I engage with them and we'll start debating this. But what they'll have is someone over the top of them holding them to account. And whereas at the moment there is no one holding them to account. Your street lights still don't work. Your buses are not being put in place. There isn't that protection being done. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking me this question. So the reason that's happening is because no one is overseeing what they're doing and making them accountable. So I'm an elected member of a local council with RBWM. It doesn't cover your ward and your area is Runnymede, but the situation is the same issues are there. What I'd like students to understand as well is some fundamentals, and we spoke about statistics earlier. Of every pound that is paid in council tax, 92 pence goes on adult and children's services and interest payments for a council. Only 8 pence of every pound goes on local services, and that's this year. Next year it'll be 6 pence. The year after that it'll be 4 pence, and the year after that it'll be 2 pence. And in the end, you will have no buses, you will have no local services. So you need people up there who understand this, and we'll do something about it and change this and change the way we fund councils and local authorities, but also hold them to account to make these changes. So the responsibility of street lighting is a local council, and I will be in there demanding that for students for safety and to make them feel secure. And it's about this feeling secure aspect that I've already touched on. Buses, we would link up with the local councils, local community groups, bus companies, put them all together and say, look, we need to have this. How can we make it happen? No excuses. What do you need? Is it money? Is it resource? Is it something in Parliament? What do we need? But we must make it happen. And buses goes across, we're removing buses everywhere, we're removing public transport. We have all these green strategies, we have all these environmental policies, but we can't even supply basic needs, which is public transport. So we need to understand how broken things are, and we need people who understand it, but are taking this attitude of what can we do right now? What can we do in the medium term? Communicate that to people, saying, look, this is what's happening and this is what we're going to be aiming towards. And then what we're going to do long term. But we need to focus on this real need right now, and I can do that. So again, as an independent, I'm not ruled by party politics. I don't tell you one thing and then go up to Parliament and the party tells me to do another. I do exactly what I say, and I'm accountable, and I have my surgeries. I'm out in the community now, and people can hold me to account. You will never hold me to account, so I'll never fail, because I'll never promise something I will not do, because I'm here to be held accountable. So I hope that helps, Alistair. It's a bit of a roundabout answer, because people will promise you things, but I've just explained the cost of the local authority. The 8 pences of every pound you pay is going to your local services, and that is including supporting students. The money just isn't there. We have to be creative and look at other ways, but we have to be motivated to do it. At the moment, you've got a group of individuals who are just not motivated. I don't think they even see it, and they certainly don't care about it. Otherwise, why would they have allowed it to have happened?
Yeah, you sit on a council, and I also know from your website that you've got experience working with lots of, independent councillors. Is that a strength that would make you a better, candidate for Windsor?
I think it proves my commitment. I think it proves I'm not just words and I'm an actions man. I have a part of my campaign is the buck stops here, and that's really about, it does. I'm accountable, So as I said, I only came into this in 2019. I'm not a politician. So when I came into this in 2019, I need to look at how I'll make change. How will I do this? And that was about growing the independent movement locally to make Windsor more of an independent constituency. So I started on that journey in 2019. We had 3 locally elected councillors, and in the Windsor constituency, we now have 11, of which 7 ran under the Borough First brand, which was an umbrella brand to help independents start their journey. And I was the leader of that until only the last few months. And basically, so we took the independent group from 3 to 11 in that period of time. And that shows actions, not words. So my background is I became a parish councillor. I'm now chairman of the parish council for the last 3 years. And that's my journey. So it's actions, not words. I became an elected member of the borough council. I then realised that not only the parish, but the borough are being affected by Parliament. So I now need to go into Parliament to be able to link up all 3 levels of authority for the people to Parliament. So it's a journey. You can see this journey. You can see what needs to happen to make the changes that you're asking for today. But without that person who's been through that, it's like a guy going and hiring the Royal Albert Hall and standing on stage saying, "I'm the funniest man in the world." You have to do the pubs, the clubs, you have to do the work. You can't keep running around the country to different constituencies trying to be elected. You have to stand here and you have to stand strong. Okay? And that's my belief. I've been a businessman all my life. You have to have the strength of character to see these things through.
That's really useful. Thank you, David, and also really insightful with your experience with councils and the details there. I can pass over now to Sharon for the last question around access, I think.
Yeah, thank you, Elsa. So I feel like we sort of touched over a lot of these. I feel like a lot of these questions sort of link into this as well. But we've discussed like how a university degree, it's a really key part of unlocking like your potential for future prospects, future careers, things like that. And it's really important that like we sort of break down barriers into attaining one. And this is something that students really care about, having appropriate and accessible ways into accessing higher education. So I guess our question is like, are you able to sort of pledge support in introducing more alternative pathways into university and higher education? And what do you feel like you're planning to do to make a university degree as accessible as possible?
I think we've got this mechanism, the way it works at the moment, and we do need to make life more accessible to all different parts of communities throughout. But I think one of the things we have a mechanism is the student maintenance and the loans that we can give now. I don't have a problem with that changing its concept and its structure, and to give more if it's needed to help certain groups and certain people. But we have to, going back to that £490 billion of debt, we have to be realistic and say we have to repay that, and we have to make sure that people can pay it. So I'm not like other party politicians who want to stop degrees and they feel certain degrees aren't valuable and should be stopped or cut off. I believe everyone should be able to do what they want to do in life, but they have to take the responsibility to be able to manage that afterwards. So they've got to repay back those loans, and they've got to take responsibility for that. But if that's the case, and we have accountability both from students, then we should encourage and support those people to take those loans and get financial support to be able to aspire and become whatever they want to be. But they need to be accountable like other people are in life, that those loans will have to be repaid. So I think that will give a more flexible, a more flexible way of working, would allow people in terms of lending to aspire to achieve more access to universities. And I think a review of the way we do that is needed.
Thank you for that, David. That was really helpful. And like I feel like a lot of discussions that we've had, you know, maintenance loans, housing, things like that, that is a big part of making higher education more accessible for people. And like in the discussions we've had earlier, it's been really helpful to see that you have a commitment to that as well. But yeah, I think that is pretty much what we sort of wanted to discuss today. Do you have any questions for us or anything that you'd like to hear from us?
No, I'm very aware of some of the issues. I'm walking around talking to the students. I'm really, really grateful for all the students who I've spoken to and others who maybe I haven't had the chance to, who are really engaged with what needs to be done now. I think that all I ask students to do is really look at what's next. You know, when you choose who you vote for, make sure you're changing things and not having more of the same. And I think that's my main message to students now is, you know, you have that opportunity to make change happen now. Choose the right path. Don't listen to the noise. Make sure you vote someone who really believes and you can see really believes and is accountable to you. So that would be my only message to everyone. And best of luck. And let's hope we get these changes to make everyone's lives better.
Thank you so much, David. And we really appreciate like you making the time to speak to us as well. And I'm sure you're extremely busy and running around everywhere all across
I think
Windsor.
you can hear it and see it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. No problem.
But yeah, thank you very much. And I think that's it for us.
And thank you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And good luck with the rest of your canvassing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.